Intellectualism's natural judgment thus anticipates that Kantian judgment that in the individual object gives birth to its sense and does not supply that sense as ready-made. Cartesianism, like Kantianism, would have fully seen the problem of perception, namely that perception is an originary knowledge. There is an empirical or second-order perception, the one that we exercise at each moment, that, because it is chock full of previous acquisitions and plays out, so to speak, on the surface of being, hides this fundamental phenomenon from us. When I quickly glance over the objects that surround me to get my bearings and to orient myself among them, I hardly gain access to the instantaneous appearance of the world. Identify the door over here, the window over there, and my table over there. These latter are only the supports and guides for a practical intention that is directed elsewhere, and which are thus only given to me as significations. But when I contemplate an object with no other worry than to see it exist and to display before me its riches, it ceases to be an allusion to the general type, and I realize that each perception, and not merely perceptions of scenes that I discover for the first time, begin anew for itself the birth of intelligence, and has something of an inspired invention to it. If I am to recognize this tree as a tree, then beneath this acquired signification, the momentary arrangement of the sensible spectacle must begin afresh, as if the origin of the vegetal world, to sketch out the individual idea of this tree. Such would be the natural judgment that cannot yet know its reasons, since it creates them. But even if we grant that existence, individuality, and facticity are on the horizon of Cartesian thought, it remains questionable whether it has taken them as themes for investigation, and it must be recognized that it could only have done so by transforming itself quite radically. In order to turn perception into an originary knowledge, it would have been necessary to grant finitude a positive signification and to take seriously that strange phase in the fourth meditation that turns me into something intermediate between God and nothingness. But if nothingness has no properties, as the fifth meditation makes clear, and as Malebranche will say, if it is nothing, then this definition of the human subject is only a matter of speaking, and the finite possesses nothing positive. In order to see reflection as a creative event, that is, as a reconstitution of the past thought that was not preformed in that thought, and that nevertheless legitimately determines that thought, because only it can give us an idea of it, and because the past in itself exists for us as if it never existed. For this, it would have been necessary for Cartesian thought to develop an intuition of time, to which the meditations only provides a brief allusion. Quote, "Let whoever can do so deceive me. He will never bring it about that I am nothing, so long as I continue to think that I am something, or make it true at some future time that I have never existed, since it is now true that I exist." End quote. The experience of the present is the experience of a being who is established once and for all, and who nothing could ever prevent from having existed. In the certainty of the present, there is an intention that goes beyond its presence, that intends it in advance as an indubitable, previous present in the series of recollections and perception, like the knowledge of the present, is a central phenomenon that makes the unity of the I possible, and with it the idea of objectivity and of truth. But in the meditations, this is only given as one of those evident truths that are merely irresistible in fact, and that remain subject to doubt. The Cartesian solution is thus not to take human thought in its factual condition as its own guarantor, but to support it by a thought that possesses itself absolutely. The connection between essence and existence is not found in experience, but rather in the idea of the infinite. Thus, reflective analysis ultimately rests entirely upon a dogmatic idea of being, and in this sense is not a fully realized insight.